Your eclipse is on my lips. I don't know. Well, welcome back to another thrilling episode of 42nd Street Pete's Grindhouse. Yeah, it's the eclipse thing. I know I'm running late because I got jacked around with some other shit going on this weekend. But anyway, this whole eclipse thing's a friggin' joke. I'm staying the hell inside because I've seen Night of the Comet, Day of the Triffids, People Alone in the Dark. I'm staying inside. And I know this whole thing's become a conspiracy theory, whatever the fuck's going on, and something about Marjorie Green Taylor saying that the eclipse and that earthquake are God's way of telling us that, we're whatever, something. First off, I think God walked away from this situation a long time ago, and second off, if he didn't walk away from that situation, a certain party who was selling Bibles would have those Bibles burst into flames. So, that being said, I think God doesn't even figure into the picture anymore. It's just a bunch of fucking lunatics spewing out stuff so they can get in power and make whatever making. But again, I digress. Something happened last week that was largely overlooked by the mainstream media, and unfortunately seems to be largely overlooked by old Facebook posters too. Because Roger Corman turned 98 a couple days ago, last week. And that is one of those things that, here's a guy who is still with us at 98 years old, who has launched some of the most important directors, actors, writers, producers that we've ever had. And, unfortunately, he's outlived most of them. Just a small laundry list of people like Jonathan Demme, Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, Joe Dante. As far as actors and actresses who he gave, first shots to, Charles Bronson, Lee Van Cleef, his own company of regulars that became icons in our era, like Dick Miller and Jonathan Hayes and all those people. You just look at the laundry list of people that have worked for or worked with Roger Corman, and you basically have the whole Hollywood motion picture company. Basically, that was the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, all this stuff. And Corman never quit. I mean, New World. Dimension Pictures, I don't think that was his, but he did something, had something to do with it. New World, Concord, New Concord, all this stuff. Corman never stopped. And, in doing so, he became this whole cottage industry of films and film releasing. And it sort of, tweaks me that, no mention of this was fucking made on mainstream media. And, this guy's a national treasure. How much longer is he going to be around? So it's just something to think about how, guys that started all this wonderful shit that we like just aren't here anymore. And, the guys that are here we should, treasure and respect because there aren't a lot of them left. I mean, Corman's 98, Bill Greffy's in his 90s. I think Jonathan Hayes is still with us. He's probably one of the last ones. But, respect these guys because it's because of Roger Corman and what he did back in the 50s and 60s and 70s that we have what we have today. And every one of these major companies has stolen Corman's formula, pretty much. So, just honor the man while he's still here. Another thing I saw over the weekend, I finally found, it's weird, it's on fucking YouTube for some reason, The Savage Seven, the biker film from 1968. Where basically it's a who's who of who would be a bunch of buddies down the road because Adam Rourke and Robert Walker Jr. are in the lead. And basically the supporting cast is Gary Kent, Bud Cardos, Chuck Bale, Penny Marshall, and some others. And Max Julien also. So the thing is, this is the film that cemented a lifelong friendship between Bud Cardos, Gary Kent, Max Julien, Chuck Bale, forever. And Adam Rourke got the lead. Adam Rourke, was in a bunch of biker movies that went over the Philippines, The Losers, and stuff like that. So it's basically that there's a group of Indians working for a company, and they're getting screwed over, and the bikers come in, and they drink in the bar, and some shit starts, a fight starts, and it's basically confusing at times because sometimes it's the bikers and the Indians at each other's throats, and sometimes it's the Indians and the bikers against the corporation. Well, just when things are getting along, there's a whole setup where an Indian girl is raped and murdered, and the bike of one of the outlaw bikers is left by her body. So they're after this guy, which starts another brawl, and then the bikers find his body hanging from a bridge and blame the Indians. So far it's just been a bunch of fist fights and punch outs and, we'll get along type shit, but with the murder of the biker, it turns deadly with fights, stabbing, shootings, and the whole bit. And then they find out that basically both murders were set up by this corporation. So then they turn on the corporation with the usual disastrous results and, the typical 70s downbeat ending. But it's an interesting film because this is where all these guys actually got together and, became great friends. And, I miss Gary. I miss him a lot. I never met Bud in person, but I talked to him a lot on the phone. I had never met Chuck Bale, and I met Penny Marshall briefly at a chiller when she was there. So, like I said, I miss Gary every day. So, surprised this thing hasn't gotten a decent release on a Blu-ray or something like that. But for those interested, you can certainly check it out on YouTube. So, do so. Big shout out to the Fusebox Show out in Portland, Oregon, who are big supporters of Grindhouse Resurrection. And speaking of Grindhouse Resurrection, I know I sent my buddy Gonzo up to Cinema Wasteland with 25 copies of the magazine, and it seemed to have sold well up there. People were asking for more, that type of thing. I don't know if it's sold out. I haven't heard from him yet, but as of Sunday morning, there wasn't too many of them left. So that's a good sign that people are really interested in this thing, and we're going to keep it going. So that's our show for today. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe, and we will catch you on the flip side. And I guess stay inside if you're afraid of the eclipse, because like I said, I'm not fucking going out.